Bonjour. Today is Saturday. It's sometime the end of July. I think it's the 27th or the 28th or something like that. And I'm on my way to Nice now to pick up a pair of pants that I had to have hemmed for me. So I will be taking the train first to a little town nearby called Beaulieu-sur-Mer. I have to stop at the HSBC there, and then from there I will head to Nice, which is just a couple stops away. So the train systems here are very interesting. You can basically hop on a train here in this town, which is about a 10-minute walk from my apartment, and be anywhere in Europe on that one railroad. It's really fascinating. Oh boy. Jesus Christ, lady. Lady was driving into the walking lane. Thanks for almost killing me. So I'm gonna actually. So I was reviewing the video, and I was not a fan of the camera that shook all over the place. So for now, I'm gonna try. I have this attached very loosely to my backpack. I'm gonna try to see if I can find a better way to attach it. But for now, this is how it's. I'm gonna test out this this style. And those are insects here in the background. I don't know what the hell they are, but they're really loud, and they're always chirping. You can hear them from the apartment. You can hear them everywhere. Anyway, so yeah, I'm heading to the Nice, Nice, the city, which is a couple stops away, and you can hop onto any place from the train here. It's about €2 for a train ticket to Nice. The trains here are very interesting. So you don't have necessarily like in New York where you buy a Metro card and then you can, you swipe into the subway as soon as you get there, and then you can go anywhere you want in the city. So you have to buy a train ticket from destination to destination. But with that being said, technically you can hop on the train without a ticket, but if you get caught by a conductor who do random searches without a ticket, then you get fined, and if you get a certain amount of fines, you can actually get up to, I think it's six months in prison you can get for multiple offenses of not having a ticket on the train. But you buy a ticket at the station. You just walk right up to the station. There's no gates, no swipe, no nothing, and you buy the ticket on the platform to wherever you're going, and then randomly the conductors will come around and search your ticket, and they'll scan it, and then they'll be off on their merry way. But you technically, I guess, can get away every once in a while with not having a ticket, though it's probably not the best idea if you're trying to avoid a fine or jail time. So it's a really different method from New York's. Most metros in America, where they have a swipe-based system where you swipe your card and then you can get onto the train. I mean, there are some places that do that here. The Paris Metro does that, but this part of France down here does not do it. It's actually very interesting. So I'll show you when we get there. So I just stopped in Beaulieu-sur-Mer. I stopped at the bank, and then I hopped on the train towards Nice. I'm sweating, like I'm just dripping in pools of sweat right now. It's insanely hot. And I got on the wrong train back because I have no clue how the trains work here. So I am in this little town between Beaulieu-sur-Mer and my town, Cap d'Aille, and it's called I think it's called, or Eza, maybe? Eza-sur-Mer. It's a very, very old town. It's got a lot of history to it. I'd like to come back and explore it one day. Definitely do a segment on that. When I know more about the place, I got to do a lot of research. But it's a very, very pretty town. It's surrounded by the mountains. It's really, really, really gorgeous. And all the way up there at the tip of that mountain, I don't know if that's an observation post or if it's a house. But there's all houses lining the station here, and it's really gorgeous. And beyond these mountains are the Alps. The Alps are a little bit farther back, maybe, I don't know, 50 miles or so, 50 to 100 miles back behind these mountains are the Alps. This is technically, I would guess, the beginning of the Alps. It's very strange how the Côte d'Azur is set up. But I said I would talk about the train tickets. So here I have a train ticket. It says départ from Aix ESA, and arrivé à Nice Via. So the train conductors every so often come around and they scan the ticket here. And I have aller simple, which is one way for one adult. Aller retourne means to go and return, so it's a two-way ticket. But it's really strange. I got on the wrong train. I didn't have a ticket for that other train, but I thought it was going towards Nice, so I hopped on quickly so I didn't miss it. But there was no conductors. I guess it was everybody coming back from work, because the thing was like rush hour New York style train, and I did not miss that leaving New York. I was hoping that I wouldn't have to run back into that, you know, people with their hands up your ass and stuff type commuting train. But yeah, that's pretty much how the trains work here. They run on these tracks, and these tracks all connect all throughout France, all throughout Europe actually. If you go down this route where I'm going towards Nice, if you keep going, you're gonna hit Cannes, you're gonna hit Marseille, you're gonna hit Toulon, you're gonna hit eventually the border between France and Spain, which you can't actually cross by train because the gauge of track is different in Spain and Portugal than it is from the rest of most of Europe. So you would actually have to take a train to the border of France, walk across a bridge across to Spain, then hop on a different train if you were trying to go to somewhere like Barcelona, which is a decent trip away. But if you go down in this direction here, that'll bring you back to Cap d'Aille, where my town is, the Cape of Garlic, as it's literally translated to. And then that'll take you also to Monaco. That'll take you to Menton, which is the farthest town on the French in France, to the east. Yeah, to the east. And then as soon as you get past that, you hit the Italian town of Ventimiglia, and then you're in Italy at that point. And you can take a train basically from there to anywhere in Italy. So it's really, really well connected. It's just, it takes a while to get to certain places. Like for example, if I wanted to go to Milan right now, it would take me about 4.5 hours by train. Now granted, those trains are air conditioned, so I might not be too bummed out having to sit for 4.5 hours in an air conditioned train, but nonetheless it's still a pretty long ride. Something I plan on getting up one day and doing. But let's see if you can see out there. That's what the Mediterranean is right there. A lot of boats out there. Actually, it's pretty much all boats. All these rich people from Monaco or who live around here take out they take their yachts and they go out onto the Mediterranean for the day. And it's usually day and night that you see them. At night you see them with the lights all lit up, and during the day you just see boats dotting the Mediterranean. It's actually pretty cool. But I'm sweating my ass off right now. I'm just dripping sweat. It's actually really bad. This is worse than pretty much any weather I've seen in New York in a long time. I'm sure, from what I hear, New York is very hot at the moment, so it could be like this, but this is bad. So I'm actually gonna wait for the train, and I'm gonna head on over to Nice to pick up my pants and hopefully an air conditioning unit, so I don't die in the heat of my apartment, because my apartment is actually not air conditioned. Most places in France, besides commercial buildings and restaurants and such, are not air conditioned. You would have to add it on separately. I don't know why they do that. Apparently air conditioning is just a very American thing, which I think is a great thing. I think the Americans got that right in one sense, is that they put air conditioning everywhere, especially in places like California, and in the summers in New York and Arizona and stuff. You would die without it. And here I think it's a necessity to have air conditioning too, because I am just dying in my own heat at the moment. So yeah, I'll be heading off to Nice now. So this is Nice Via, otherwise known as downtown Nice. It's an absolutely gorgeous site. It reminds me the most of what New York is. As an American, you know, with the whole, everybody's sort of in a rush always, but nonetheless it's still an absolutely amazing site. It's a big bustling city, you know. It's got the whole 9 yards. It's got you know, people running in every direction. It's got businesses that are, funny enough, businesses in France work very strange. So in the town I live in, it's considered a small town, Cap d'Aille. Stores are usually open around 8 a.m. to noon, and then they close for an hour and a half, and then they reopen. It's like a sort of nap time / lunch break type thing, but in big cities they don't have that. It's more like what New York is, where things open at like 8 and then they close at 7. So in the smaller towns you have these hour and a half closing times in the middle of the day, which is I find that pretty interesting. But here's what Nice looks like. It's just an absolutely gorgeous town. It's really, really pretty. But I'm on my way, like I said, to pick up a pair of pants and probably an air conditioner too. But this is where you'll find the most similar experience to New York. With that being said, I'm sorry, I just got to look up directions real quick. Sorry. Let me cross the street here. Yeah, this is the most similar place to New York that you will find. But with that being said, it looks nothing like New York. It actually looks a lot more akin to something like Paris. You can see with the round style architecture on the corners there, something that you would see in Paris, and then the wider streets, like something you would see in Paris as well. I don't know when Nice was built, but the city looks wider in its street sizes. I think it was Napoleon II expanded the streets of Paris in order to allow his troops to march through there. So depending on when this place was built, either before or after Napoleon II, I think that rule still sort of applies, that that whole wider street to allow for troop movement. They're always doing construction here. It's a really, really big city, and it's absolutely amazing. I can't recommend coming in here enough. It's just, you have the whole mountains in the background. You have the gorgeous architecture, the Parisian style that I absolutely adore so much. But yeah, this is where you should come for all your shopping needs. There's pretty much anything you can imagine. A lot of shops end up looking like what 90s New York did. So there were a lot of shops that sold like old style air conditionings. There's a lot of shops that actually sell car stereos, funny enough, something you never see in New York nowadays. But it's really a fascinating place to explore. It bridges the gap. I think this entire country, or at least this part of the country, bridges the gap between modern and old styles, and I really, really adore it. But with that being said, I still have my work cut out for me. I still have a lot more exploring to do than this. So I'm gonna, like I said, head off to that store now, and I'll get one last nice view here. So I was walking through Nice, going to a couple of shops, some department stores, looking for stuff, and I came across this giant basilica right here. And what's cool is that, oh, hold on, there's a really gorgeous view down there. What's cool is that this basilica here is in the style of Notre Dame de Paris, which is the Cathedral of Notre Dame in Paris. And the name of this chapel is Basilique Notre Dame, Notre Dame Basilica. So if you look around here, if you just take a glance down these streets, you really wouldn't be able to tell the difference between here and Paris if you didn't know that this was Nice. And I find that interesting. I don't know why that is. It seems as though Nice was very heavily influenced by a Parisian style of both architecture and urban design, but this is what I meant before by the wider streets. I don't know if, like I said, these were influenced by the street widenings of Paris that were done by, I believe it was Napoleon II. I could be wrong. Please don't quote me on that. If I'm wrong, you have all rights to yell at me. But this is like the main street where like tourists and the big popular restaurants and a lot of department stores and stuff reside. Now what's cool is that right here in the street, you see there's actually no cars. There's just tracks. And that's cool because the trains here aren't like they are in New York, where the trains run on their own separate tracks. They just run in the middle of the street. But you really can't drive. You can drive across them. Here comes a train now. They're sort of in like a San Francisco style with the power lines above it and the trains just running along the street. They make a little bell noise, but if you don't hear the bell noise, it's more than likely that you're going to end up getting crushed by a train, which is not a fun thing to do when you go to visit France. I don't recommend it. What I do recommend is going over here, and behind here is Nice Étoile. It's basically a shopping mall built into a French-style building. And there's lots of different stores in there. Funny enough, there's a Hollister store in there with 2 floors. There's a Geox store, which is apparently very popular in Europe still. I thought they went out of business, and for good reason, because their shoes looked ugly as shit, if you ask me. But they're alive and kicking, sadly, in there. And it's definitely, if you walk in there, it's very much like the US. You know, you can't really tell a difference besides the fact that they just have very different types of stores. So it's extremely interesting seeing how bustling the city is. And compared to New York, it's slower, but it still does have a very fast pace to it. And people just walk across the street regardless of whether or not cars are coming. I mean, to be fair, here comes a train. But to be fair, I walk across the street when cars are coming too, because that's just a New York thing, and I don't give a shit. One day it's going to get me killed, but you know, qu'est-ce que c'est que cela, as we say in French, or it is what it is. But yeah, just a quick side note, you can see all of the shops and everything here, and you can see the planes flying over by. I don't know if you just saw the plane before, but Nice Côte d'Azur, well, l'aéroport Nice Côte d'Azur, which is where I flew into, actually, is right near here. It's just in that direction, towards on the other side of Nice. And it's a gorgeous airport, but Nice itself is also an absolutely spectacular city. It's really got this fascinating architectural style, and it has all the quirks of a normal city. It's not, it's not devoid of its problems. It still has, junkies and it has some homeless people somewhere. Granted, I haven't seen as many as you would see maybe in like just north of the Staten Island ferry in Manhattan, but they're here, they're alive, they're well, they're kicking. So, they're doing their thing. But a train almost hit a police car. Yeah, see, this is why you don't put your trains on the same fucking place where you put your cars, because then when the police are coming, your police just get hit by the trains. But here's a big cross section in Nice between the train tracks and Nice city streets. And yeah, it does really look as though these streets are purposely made to be this wide. I mean, modern cities like New York, they were designed that way for cars, because cars, well, not really. New York wasn't designed for cars, but there are some other modern cities in America are designed with wide streets for cars, because that's when they were built up, when cars became popular. But cities like Nice have been here for hundreds and hundreds of years, so I don't see that. I don't see cars being the reason why these streets were originally widened. I more envision it being the work of one man, I would guess Napoleon II, who allowed troops to march to the city in order to quell rebellions. That's really why the streets were widened. It wasn't like, it wasn't like they needed to get troops from mainland France, inland France, to the sea for some stupid reason, but it was more like if there's ever rebellions throughout France, that the streets would be widened in order to allow soldiers to crush rebellions, which sounds really fucked up, and it sort of is, but nowadays it's used for cars, So I guess there's a little bit of good that ended up coming out of that. So that's a little bit of Nice in a nutshell. There's more. I don't know if you could see down there, but there's a right down there. There's like a little tiny streets that remind me actually of something that you would see in either Florence or Venice. I think I passed the street that I was supposed to turn down anyway. Shit. All right. I'm gonna go get something to eat, and then if I see anything interesting, I will. I'll report on it. So. Well, I walked about 35 feet and realized that there's something else I should point out as I walked into this giant square. This is one of the bigger town squares in Nice, and surprisingly enough, it bears a striking resemblance to a place that I love, probably one of my favorite cities in the world, Venice. For example, this style of architecture here with these arches can be found on whatever, the Duke's Palace. I don't know the Italian name for it, forgive me for not being too knowledgeable on that, but there is actually a giant statue in town square that I can't tell what it is from here, but it looks something like the statue of David, or it looks like a statue of some sort of king. Either way, this is an absolutely gorgeous square, populated by cars and such, but it looks like it might have been, actually no, it looks like it was modeled off of like a Venetian style of architecture. So it's a very, very pretty place. It uses very Mediterranean style colors with the pinks and the sandstone looking colors, and this is actually another park over here. This is Le Place du Papillon. At least I believe that's what it's called. Please don't quote me on these things, because there's a good chance that I'm wrong. But there's a big park in here. So it sort of looks a bit like Central Park. You can jump across in the water and I guess lay in the 2 centimeter deep water if you so choose to do so, like some people are doing in there. I mean, I don't know why they just wouldn't go to a beach, because, you know, we are on the Côte d'Azur, you know, the fucking coast. You would think that they would go down to like the Mediterranean and swim rather than swim in a public park in the middle of Nice, but you know, to each his own. So yes, it does have a very Venetian style of architecture, and this style here with the curved buildings and such, and the Hershey Park looking train. That's driving. This country's so weird. Oh, actually, I can head down here. But that circular style of architecture reminds me a lot of actually the Vatican, and the Vatican style, where in the Vatican it opens up into a circle that has an entrance down the middle that leads out to Rome. That doesn't lead out to Rome, that leads out to the Mediterranean, but nonetheless, I think that there's a very, very high probability that they modeled it off of an Italian style of architecture. A lot of this architecture actually looks very Italian in nature. And funny enough, there's palm trees here. I mean, I haven't seen palm trees in years. Palm trees are just like when I see them, I think of California. I'm like, oh, I'm in California. But no, I'm in France, which is just absolutely crazy. That this country that's smaller than the size of Texas has both a climate, has parts of the country that are Alps. It has some of the tallest mountains in Europe. It has some of the tallest mountains in Europe, and then it also has some of the warmest and most sunny places in Europe too. It's really, really strange. If you go maybe 50 miles north of here, you'll run into the Swiss Alps, which is just like it's mind-boggling to an American, where, you know, if you want to get from New York to California, you're going a good 2,500 miles, preferably by plane. So yeah, it's just, this place is really, really fascinating, and there's a ton of stuff that I have to actually look more into, or learn, I should say. But that guy's motorbike is obnoxiously loud, so I'm starting to sweat again now. So actually, I'm gonna go back to traversing this place so I can go find somewhere to eat. And then, like I said, if I see anything else, I will. I'll come back and talk about it. So all right, I'm here in the mall. Nice Étoile, it's called. And this is. I'd like to at least just show what I mean by how similar to the U.S. this is. So I mean, it's just a typical mall. You know, I mean that toy store there has all completely different brands and stuff. Here, let me mount this on the thing here. But well, yeah, never mind. I'm not gonna. This isn't gonna be long. But anyway, I just wanted to quickly point out how strange this place is compared to the U.S. Like, for example, here's like, I guess the European version of like a Disney store or some shit. Jujut Fête, Grand Toy Store or whatever. I don't know. It translates to some weird thing. But yeah, it's just it's very interesting place. So that's just a little side note that I thought was interesting. All right. Oh, that guy's wearing an NYPD shirt. Oh shit, I should go talk to him. So this is just a conclusion for today's vlog. Today I went into Nice, and to recap everything I did, I went to Beaulieu-sur-Mer to go to the bank, which I didn't really film much. I talked a little bit about the train stations. I talked about the wide streets in Nice. I talked about the city center of Nice. Nice is a really, really, really great city. It reminds me a lot, actually, of New York. It has a very New Orleans, like, well, I guess I don't need sunglasses. The sun's sort of going down, but it has a very New Orleans style to it. Well, New Orleans more or less took Nice's style, but it looks a lot like New Orleans. It's brutally hot, but you know, it's still an absolutely gorgeous place. So thank you for watching this far. If you have any questions, or if you have any suggestions or anything, or you want me to cover any topics about here or pretty much anywhere in the area, maybe, you know, I can go to Italy too. Italy's only 20 minutes away. Monaco as well, of course, because that's the whole reason why I came here to begin with. Or France or anything. Please let me know. I'd be more than happy to do it. Yeah, and it's sunset now here, so this is what this place looks like at sunset. It's actually very overcast right now, and it's a nice cool breeze, so it's not blistering hot. But yeah, this place is just an absolute marvel. It's really cool, and if you look up there, you can actually see the clouds are covering the fortress up there. La Tête de Chien is up there. It's a very, very interesting fortress. Somebody told me today to go and check it out, so I'm gonna go check it out at some point. Hopefully I'll go before school starts, if it's not too brutally hot, because if it's hot down here, it's gonna be much hotter up there. So yes, once again, thank you very much, and I'll leave you off on a view of Cap d'Aille.